January 6, 2022, the Russian frigate Admiral Gorshkov cuts through the Norwegian Sea's icy waters. On its deck sits a weapon that's about to change modern warfare forever. Imagine you're a radar operator on a US Navy destroyer. Suddenly, your screen lights up, but by the time your brain processes what you're seeing, you have just 30 seconds left. Not 30 seconds to react, 30 seconds to live. In the time it takes you to make a cup of coffee, this missile, the 3M22 Zircon, has already traveled 270 kilometers. That's the distance from Washington, D.C. to Philadelphia, in the time it takes to microwave your lunch. But this isn't science fiction. On that cold January morning, Admiral Gorshkov demonstrated something that military experts had long thought impossible. They launched a missile that doesn't just break the sound barrier, it shatters our entire understanding of what missiles can do. Naval warfare analyst Commander James Richardson puts it bluntly: when you're dealing with a weapon that travels at Mach 9, which is around 11,025 kilometers per hour, traditional defense concepts become obsolete. This isn't just another missile. It's a paradigm shift in naval warfare. But the speed is just the beginning. What makes the Zircon truly terrifying isn't just how fast it moves, it's what happens to the very air around it. As we're about to see, this missile doesn't just fly through the atmosphere, it turns it into a weapon. Before we dive into the physics-defying capabilities of this hypersonic monster, here's a stark reality. Every major navy in the world is now scrambling to find an answer to one simple question. How do you stop something that's faster than a bullet, smarter than its predecessors, and protected by a shield of superheated plasma? Let's shatter some records. The Zircon missile doesn't just break the sound barrier, it obliterates our understanding of what's possible in missile technology. At Mach 9, we're talking about 11,025 kilometers per hour. But numbers alone don't tell the whole story. Picture this. A standard 9mm bullet leaves your gun at roughly 0.75 kilometers per second. Fast, right? Now watch this. The Zircon cuts through the air at 3.1 kilometers per second. That's 4 times faster than a bullet. If a bullet is a cheetah, the Zircon is a spacecraft. But 2017 marked the turning point. In a classified facility near Moscow, Russian engineers achieved something remarkable: the successful testing of the scramjet engine. Unlike traditional rocket engines that carry their own oxygen, the scramjet does something ingenious. It breathes. At speeds above Mach 5, the engine compresses incoming air so intensely that it ignites the fuel automatically. No moving parts, no complicated machinery, just pure physics pushed to its absolute limit. The air itself becomes part of the engine. The temperatures inside exceed 2,000 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt steel. The engineering challenge wasn't just making it work, it was making it survive its own power. The solution involved materials so advanced, they're classified as state secrets. Here's something to put this in perspective. While you've been watching this section of our video, a Zircon missile could have traveled from New York to Philadelphia, turned around, and come halfway back. That's the kind of speed we're dealing with. Take a moment and think about this. We've had bullets for hundreds of years, and we've built defenses against them. But how do you defend against something that travels faster than any defense system can react? Type game changer if you think this transforms modern warfare, or defendable if you believe there's still a way to stop it. But raw speed isn't even the Zircon's most terrifying feature. What happens to the air around this hypersonic monster creates something that makes it nearly invisible to radar. And that's where our story takes an even more incredible turn. When you think about invisibility in warfare, you might imagine advanced stealth coatings or radar-absorbing materials. But the Zircon missile achieves something far more extraordinary. It creates its own shield of superheated plasma that makes it virtually invisible to radar systems. And this isn't science fiction. It's basic physics pushed to its absolute limits. At hypersonic speeds above Mach 5, something remarkable happens to the air around the missile. The intense compression and friction heat the air to such extreme temperatures, we're talking about 2,800 degrees Celsius, that it transforms into a state of matter we rarely see on Earth: plasma. This superheated gas envelope completely surrounds the missile, creating what scientists call a plasma stealth shield. Here's where it gets fascinating. This plasma cloud has a unique property that makes radar operators lose sleep at night. When radar waves hit this ionized gas shield, they don't bounce back like they would off a normal metal surface. Instead, they get absorbed and scattered, effectively making the missile disappear from radar screens. In simpler terms, it's like trying to take a photo of a car that's creating its own fog around itself. The strategic implications became crystal clear during the classified 2019 trials against Russia's own S-400 air defense system. Widely considered one of the most advanced in the world, according to leaked test data, even this sophisticated system, capable of tracking stealth aircraft, struggled to maintain a lock on the Zircon. The plasma shield reduced the missile's radar cross-section to less than 0.1 square meters, smaller than a seabird. Think about this nuclear-capable missile's combination of unprecedented speed and near invisibility. Military analysts watched in astonishment as Russia's own premier air defense system, designed to stop exactly this kind of threat, failed to track the Zircon consistently. Imagine playing catch with something moving 4 times faster than a bullet that you can barely see. That's what defense systems are up against. Type invisible thunder if you believe this plasma shield technology is the future of missile warfare, or counterable if you think defense systems will find a way to pierce this plasma veil. But even this extraordinary stealth capability isn't the end of the story. The Zircon has another ace up its sleeve, one that makes it potentially the most dangerous maritime weapon ever created. The modern aircraft carrier has dominated naval warfare since World War II, with the United States Navy's supercarriers serving as floating symbols of global power projection. But in a single stroke, the Zircon missile has potentially turned these $13 billion behemoths into vulnerable targets. Here's why military strategists worldwide are reconsidering decades of naval doctrine. Let's talk range. The Zircon's operational reach stretches between 1,000 to 2,000 kilometers, depending on flight profile and payload. To put this in stark perspective, a single Russian frigate equipped with Zircon missiles could threaten a U.S. carrier group while remaining safely outside the effective range of the carrier's F-35C fighters, which have a combat radius of approximately 1,100 kilometers. The hunter has become the hunted. The 2023 Northern Fleet deployment showcased this new reality, when the Admiral Gorshkov, armed with Zircon missiles, began its patrol through the Atlantic Ocean. It triggered the largest NATO naval response since the Cold War. For the first time, a single frigate, not even a capital ship, forced multiple carrier groups to maintain a defensive posture. Naval experts noted something unprecedented. American carriers were actively avoiding certain zones of operation, creating what strategists now call Zircon exclusion zones. But here's what keeps admirals awake at night. The mathematics of naval warfare has fundamentally changed. A carrier group's layered defense system, developed over decades at a cost of billions, requires approximately 15 to 20 seconds to detect, track, and intercept incoming threats. The Zircon covers 30 kilometers in those same 15 seconds. Add in the plasma stealth shield we discussed earlier, and you begin to understand why the U.S. Naval War College has termed this the carrier killer. Consider this scenario, which played out in classified war games. A single Zircon hit on a carrier's flight deck doesn't just damage the ship, it renders it completely unable to launch or recover aircraft. One missile, costing a fraction of the carrier's price, can neutralize the centerpiece of American naval power. The cost-benefit equation of naval warfare has been completely rewritten. The implications extend beyond just carrier vulnerability. Traditional naval task force formations, designed around protecting the carrier, suddenly seem obsolete. But to truly understand why the Zircon represents such a quantum leap in missile technology, we need to look inside this hypersonic marvel. The engineering behind it tells an even more incredible story. To understand what makes the Zircon truly revolutionary, we need to dive deep into its beating heart. The scramjet engine, arguably the most sophisticated propulsion system ever created for a missile. Unlike traditional rockets that carry both fuel and oxygen, the scramjet does something that seems to defy logic. It uses the very air it's cutting through as part of its propulsion system. But this creates an extraordinary challenge. How do you build something that can survive these extreme conditions? The answer lies in a breakthrough in material science that's still classified. Russian engineers developed a composite material that combines carbon fiber with ceramic matrices, creating a structure that can withstand temperatures that would turn conventional missile materials into puddles. The cooling system itself is a marvel of engineering, using the missile's fuel as a heat sink before combustion, essentially turning a problem into a solution. The precision required in manufacturing these components is staggering. The internal geometry of the scramjet must be accurate to within microns, about the width of a human blood cell. Any imperfection could cause catastrophic failure at Mach 9. This explains the eye-watering cost. Each Zircon missile is estimated at $100 million, more expensive than many of the ships it's designed to destroy. To put this in perspective, you could buy 3 F-35 fighter jet engines for the price of one Zircon missile. What makes this cost justified is the ripple effect it creates in naval warfare economics. A single Zircon missile, despite its astronomical price tag, can neutralize a $13 billion aircraft carrier or force an entire carrier group to alter its operation patterns. In the cold calculus of military economics, this represents a fundamental shift in the cost-to-effect ratio of naval warfare. The most fascinating aspect might be what we don't know. Military analysts believe that what's been publicly revealed about the Zircon's propulsion system represents only the tip of the technological iceberg. The real breakthroughs, particularly in materials science and thermal management, remain some of the most closely guarded secrets in modern military technology. Remember our title's burning question: can any defense stop it? This section reveals why that question keeps military strategists awake at night, particularly when it comes to protecting their most valuable naval assets. In 2021, a classified U.S. naval wargame simulation revealed a chilling reality about carrier vulnerability. The scenario was simple but devastating. A single Zircon missile, approaching at Mach 9, targeted an aircraft carrier's flight deck. The simulation accounted for every defensive system in the carrier strike group's arsenal, from Aegis radar systems to SM-3 interceptor missiles, CIWS close-in weapons, and electronic countermeasures. The results were sobering. At its operational speed of 3.1 kilometers per second, the Zircon crossed the carrier group's outer defensive perimeter before targeting systems could even achieve a lock. By the time the carrier's defensive systems detected and classified the threat, the missile had already penetrated 2/3 of the defensive envelope. The physics were simply unforgiving. Even if an interceptor had been launched immediately, the time required for it to reach operational speed meant the Zircon would have already reached its target. Let's break down the vulnerability chain. A carrier's flight deck is its lifeline. It's not just a landing strip, it's a precisely engineered surface designed to withstand the extreme stress of aircraft operations. The Zircon's kinetic energy alone, forget its warhead, striking at Mach 9 would catastrophically compromise this surface. Naval architects calculate that a single hit would create a crater pattern that makes aircraft operations impossible, effectively neutralizing the carrier's primary function. But it gets worse. Modern carriers use what's called a longitudinal landing pattern. A disabled section of the flight deck doesn't just affect one landing spot, it renders the entire recovery operation impossible. Aircraft already in the air would have nowhere to land, forcing them to divert to land bases or ditch in the ocean. A single $100 million missile could thus neutralize not just the $13 billion carrier, but its entire air wing worth billions more. The 2021 wargames explored multiple defensive scenarios, including saturation defense patterns and dispersed formation tactics. None proved consistently effective against the Zircon's combination of speed, maneuverability, and plasma stealth shielding. The closest they came to a successful defense required perfect detection conditions and immediate response, a scenario unlikely in the chaos of actual combat. This brings us back to our main question: can anything stop it? So far, the world's most sophisticated naval defense systems haven't found a reliable answer. And with the next generation of hypersonic weapons already in development, the challenge is only getting more complex. Our examination of attempts to stop the Zircon missile reveals a fundamental problem that pushes the boundaries of physics itself. The history of missile defense has always been a game of intercepting threats at the right moment, but the Zircon has changed the rules of this game entirely. Traditional missile defense operates on a simple principle: detect, track, and intercept. The U.S. Navy's premier Aegis combat system, for instance, can track and engage multiple threats simultaneously, intercepting missiles traveling at around Mach 3 to Mach 4. But when confronted with the Zircon's Mach 9 speed, even this sophisticated system encounters what physicists call a time-distance problem. Think of it like trying to catch a bullet with another bullet, except now the target bullet is moving 4 times faster than anything you've ever encountered. Recent trials have documented this challenge in stark detail. In a 2022 test, a modified SM-6 interceptor missile, one of the most advanced in the U.S. arsenal, attempted to track and engage a hypersonic target. The physics problem became immediately apparent. By the time the interceptor reached its operational speed, the target had already traveled an additional 95 kilometers. It's like trying to catch up with a car that's already disappeared over the horizon. But why can't we simply build faster interceptors? This is where the physics problem becomes even more intriguing. Any interceptor missile fast enough to catch the Zircon would face the same atmospheric challenges: extreme heat, plasma formation, and control difficulties. More importantly, at such speeds, the interceptor would have mere milliseconds to make course corrections. The computing power required to calculate an intercept solution at these speeds exceeds our current technological capabilities. The most sophisticated attempt at a countermeasure to date involved a multi-layered approach, using directed energy weapons combined with conventional interceptors. Even this failed because of a cruel irony. The same plasma shield that makes the Zircon nearly invisible to radar also protects it from laser-based defense systems. The plasma cloud, which forms naturally at hypersonic speeds, acts as a nearly perfect defense against both detection and destruction. This returns us to our title question about whether any defense can stop it. The troubling answer emerging from these failed countermeasures is that we're not just facing a technological gap. We're butting up against the fundamental laws of physics. The combination of speed, plasma shielding, and maneuverability creates what military scientists now call a perfect defense penetration storm, where each characteristic that makes it hard to stop reinforces the others. The implications of these failed countermeasures extend far beyond just the Zircon itself. They signal a paradigm shift in missile defense strategy, forcing military planners to consider an uncomfortable reality. Sometimes the best defense isn't trying to stop the unstoppable, but preventing it from being launched in the first place. The emergence of the Zircon missile has triggered a frantic global race for countermeasures, with the world's major military powers pouring unprecedented resources into hypersonic defense. But can they actually catch up to this game-changing threat? The United States' response has been particularly aggressive, with the Missile Defense Agency launching a $3.8 billion emergency program specifically targeted at hypersonic threats. The program, codenamed Glide Phase Interceptor, represents the largest single investment in missile defense technology since the Reagan-era Strategic Defense Initiative. Pentagon officials have admitted publicly that this massive expenditure was directly influenced by the Zircon's demonstrated capabilities, marking the first time the U.S. military has acknowledged being technologically outmaneuvered in missile technology since the 1957 Sputnik crisis. China's response has been equally telling. While publicly claiming their HQ-19 interceptor system can track and engage hypersonic threats, independent military analysts remain skeptical. The HQ-19's claimed interception capabilities would require breakthrough advances in multiple fields simultaneously: radar technology, computational processing, and missile propulsion. More significantly, China's continued massive investment in their own hypersonic weapons program suggests they don't fully trust their defensive capabilities against weapons like the Zircon. NATO's response has perhaps been the most dramatic, marking the first fundamental shift in the alliance's air defense strategy since the Cold War. The new Integrated Air and Missile Defense Strategy 2030 document, drafted specifically in response to hypersonic threats, acknowledges a stark reality. Traditional point defense of high-value targets may no longer be viable. Instead, NATO is shifting toward a distributed defense concept, essentially admitting that no single defensive system can reliably counter weapons like the Zircon. The financial implications are staggering. Since the Zircon's capabilities became known, global spending on hypersonic defense has increased by 320%. The US alone has redirected funding from 12 other military programs to focus on this single threat. But despite these massive investments, no country has yet demonstrated a reliable defense against hypersonic weapons traveling at Mach 9 or above. Perhaps most telling is the classified NATO assessment leaked in late 2023, which concluded that even with unlimited funding, current physics and engineering limitations mean an effective defense against weapons like the Zircon might be a decade or more away. This admission has forced military planners worldwide to consider a troubling possibility. For the first time since the advent of modern air defense systems, we may be entering an era where offense has gained an insurmountable advantage over defense. This global response, or rather the inadequacy of it, brings us back to our central question about stopping the Zircon. The world's leading military powers, despite billions in investment and their most advanced technology, are still struggling to find an answer. The Zircon hasn't just introduced a new weapon, it has fundamentally transformed military thinking for the coming decades. Consider this. For the first time since World War II, major powers are completely redesigning their naval formations based on a single weapon system. Modern military doctrine relied heavily on aircraft carriers projecting power across vast distances. This era appears to be ending. Naval strategists at the U.S. Naval War College now advocate for a radical shift toward smaller distributed vessel groups. The concept of capital ships, massive, expensive vessels serving as fleet centerpieces, may become obsolete in this new paradigm. The strategic balance has shifted in ways few anticipated. Former Admiral James Stavridis notes, smaller nations with hypersonic capabilities can now effectively deny access to much larger naval powers. The cost ratio favors the defender so dramatically that it changes centuries of maritime strategic thinking. This technological leap has sparked a reimagining of future conflicts. Military planners now emphasize preemptive capability against launch platforms rather than interception. The focus has shifted from defending against missiles to preventing their deployment entirely. This represents a return to Cold War deterrence principles, but with a crucial difference. The response time has shrunk from hours to minutes. The psychological impact on naval operations is profound. Submarine warfare expert Dr. Sarah Chen explains, vessel commanders must now operate under the assumption that they are perpetually within strike range of weapons they cannot reliably detect or intercept. This creates an entirely new psychological dimension to naval warfare. Perhaps most significantly, the Zircon has accelerated the trend toward unmanned naval platforms. The U.S. Navy's Ghost Fleet program, developing autonomous surface vessels, received triple its planned funding after the Zircon's capabilities became clear. The logic is simple. If no defense is guaranteed, spreading risk across multiple unmanned platforms becomes the only viable strategy. The ripple effects extend beyond naval warfare. Air Force doctrine, land-based missile defense, and even space-based early warning systems require comprehensive redesign. Military theorists now speak of hypersonic zones, where traditional air defense concepts simply don't apply. Looking ahead, naval warfare specialists project a shift toward what they call mosaic warfare, highly distributed, autonomous systems working in concert, replacing traditional fleet formations. This represents not just a tactical evolution, but a complete reimagining of maritime power projection. The emergence of this technology marks a pivotal moment in military history, comparable to the introduction of dreadnoughts or aircraft carriers. But unlike those previous revolutions, this one may have no conventional countermeasure. The future of warfare appears to be one where traditional defensive concepts must be entirely reconsidered. The Zircon missile's emergence hasn't just reshaped military strategy, it has triggered an unprecedented financial cascade throughout the global defense industry. The numbers tell a startling story about how a single weapon system can reshape global military spending patterns. Defense contractors worldwide have pivoted dramatically, with hypersonic research and development budgets expanding from $5 billion in 2019 to over $28 billion in 2024. This explosive growth reflects more than just an arms race. It represents a fundamental reorganization of military-industrial priorities. Major aerospace companies have abandoned traditional missile defense projects in favor of hypersonic initiatives, creating what analysts call a hypersonic gold rush. The financial burden on naval powers has become particularly acute. Traditional naval defense budgets operated on a rough formula, approximately $1 billion per year to maintain and defend a carrier strike group. With the Zircon threat, that figure has nearly tripled. The U.S. Navy alone has requested an additional $12 billion specifically for hypersonic defense systems, funds that must be diverted from other critical programs. Perhaps most striking is the cost-benefit equation for naval power projection. Historically, a nation needed to invest approximately $30 billion to field a credible blue water navy. Today, a country can achieve similar strategic impact with just $2 to $3 billion invested in hypersonic missile systems. This democratization of naval power has forced wealthy nations to radically rethink their defense spending priorities. Insurance companies have also reshaped the economics of naval operations. Lloyd's of London now charges premium rates 300% higher for vessels operating in hypersonic-capable zones. This indirect cost has begun influencing global trade routes as shipping companies balance risk against fuel efficiency. The impact extends to civilian technology sectors. The scramjet engine's development has accelerated research in high-temperature materials, benefiting everything from commercial aviation to space exploration. However, this technological transfer comes at a price. Critical materials like specialized carbon composites have seen price increases of up to 500% due to military demand. Looking ahead, economists project that maintaining current naval capabilities against hypersonic threats will require a 40% increase in defense spending over the next decade. This level of investment raises serious questions about the sustainability of traditional naval power projection in an era of hypersonic warfare. At the cutting edge of hypersonic defense research, scientists are pushing the boundaries of multiple technologies simultaneously, searching for that elusive solution to our central question: can anything stop a missile like the Zircon? The current landscape of defensive innovation reveals both promising breakthroughs and sobering limitations. Advanced quantum radar systems represent the first glimmer of hope. Unlike conventional radar, quantum systems exploit the principles of quantum entanglement to potentially pierce the plasma shield surrounding hypersonic weapons. Scientists at MIT's Lincoln Laboratory have achieved detection ranges of up to 70 kilometers in controlled tests. While this falls short of operational requirements, it marks the first significant breakthrough in hypersonic detection technology. Artificial intelligence has emerged as another crucial frontier. The processing time required to track and intercept a Mach 9 missile exceeds human cognitive capabilities. New neural networks, processing sensor data in microseconds rather than milliseconds, show promise in reducing reaction times. The Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA, recently demonstrated an AI system capable of calculating intercept solutions 50 times faster than conventional systems. Perhaps the most innovative approach comes from directed energy weapons. The Naval Research Laboratory has developed a new type of high-energy laser specifically designed to interact with plasma fields. Early tests suggest these systems might be able to destabilize the plasma shield around hypersonic weapons, potentially making them visible to conventional defense systems. The timeline for deploying effective countermeasures remains daunting. Current projections from defense analysts suggest a minimum of 8 to 10 years before a reliable defense system emerges. This estimate assumes continued acceleration in key technologies, quantum sensing, artificial intelligence, and directed energy weapons. Even then, any successful defense will likely require a combination of all these approaches working in concert. Thermal management presents another critical challenge. Current interceptor missiles generate too much heat during acceleration to reach the necessary speeds for hypersonic intercept. A promising solution involves new ceramic matrix composites that can withstand temperatures up to 3,000 degrees Celsius, potentially enabling faster interceptors. However, manufacturing these materials at scale remains years away. The most recent breakthrough came from an unexpected direction: atmospheric physics. Scientists discovered that hypersonic weapons create unique electromagnetic signatures in the upper atmosphere. While not a direct countermeasure, this phenomenon might provide crucial early warning capabilities, extending detection times by precious seconds. As this technical race accelerates, one thing becomes clear: the solution likely won't come from a single technological breakthrough, but rather from the synthesis of multiple emerging technologies. The question isn't just whether we can stop weapons like the Zircon, but whether we can develop and integrate these complex systems quickly enough to matter. Let's return to that radar operator we met at the beginning. Those 30 seconds now carry a deeper significance. Despite billions invested, despite the world's brightest minds working on countermeasures, despite revolutionary advances in technology, we still haven't found a reliable answer to our opening question: can any defense stop the Zircon? The evidence we've examined leads to a sobering conclusion. The combination of Mach 9 speed, plasma stealth shielding, and advanced maneuverability creates what military experts call the perfect penetrator. Admiral Richardson's final assessment is stark. We're witnessing a paradigm shift in warfare. For the first time in modern military history, we face a weapon that fundamentally outpaces our defensive capabilities. The Zircon represents more than just a missile. It's the harbinger of a new era in warfare, an era where traditional defensive concepts must be completely reimagined, where billion-dollar warships can be neutralized by a single strike, and where the very nature of naval supremacy is being rewritten. The future isn't just approaching at Mach 9, it's already here. If you found this deep dive into the technology that's reshaping modern warfare fascinating, hit that subscribe button for more cutting-edge military tech analysis. And smash that like button if you want us to explore more game-changing weapon systems that are transforming the battlefield. Until next time, keep your eyes on the horizon. Though with hypersonic weapons, you might not see what's coming.